What's going on, guys? My name is Derrick. Welcome to my channel, Superbike Life. It has been a minute since I was able to post anything. June was just crazy. I had California Superbike School. Then the following weekend, we had World Superbike at the WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. And then I had to drive 2,800 miles from Phoenix to Massachusetts to be here today. So if you guys are paying attention, and I know some of you really do, you'll notice that this is not my garage back in Phoenix. In fact, I'm at my brother's garage out here in Massachusetts. I'm going to be here for the next couple of weeks, and I brought all my bikes. I only planned to bring like 2, but I brought them all, particularly the wreck bike rebuild. The bikes you see behind me are 2 beautiful MV Agusta F4RRs. Well, that one is in the process of being beautiful. That one is my brother's bike. It's a 2013 F4RR, while mine is a Project 2012 F4RR. Anyway, I have a very special episode today. We're still doing some work on the F4RR, but you'll have to stay tuned to check out what it is. Welcome back, guys. So what is so special about today's episode? Well, it's special because we are installing this puppy. This is not a turbo, although it does look like a little mini turbo. Very well put together, ball bearings in the back and everything. It's pretty cool. But this is a Design Corse water pump for your F4/B4 MV Agusta. This will fit all of your F4 models and B4 models. It is made by Jet Prime, as you can see the name right there, made by Jet Prime. But it's made specifically for Design Corse, so I believe Design Corse is the only place you can get this, unless Jet Prime started selling them direct. Fantastic craftsmanship here. The blue anodizing on the end here for your hose connection, blue anodizing on the water pump impellers. All of this is CNC machined. This is a gorgeous piece. Comes with the O-ring on the side here. Only thing you need to swap out is the overall cover here that we'll take off of our stock bike. Now, you might be asking, why would you want to replace your stock water pump, particularly if it's not leaking or broken or has failed in some type of way? Well, the reason being, there are a couple of reasons. F4s are notorious for having poor coolant circulation below 5,000 RPMs. And once we get the other one off, I'll be able to show this to you a little bit better, and you're certainly not going to be able to see it in here. But in here are the water pump impellers, and they're almost touching the housing in here. It's really that close as you spin this thing. They're not touching, but you can't see, but they're pretty darn close. On your stock water pump, there is a gap between the water pump impeller and the outside of the housing, or the inside of the housing, excuse me. And that gap, when you're below 5,000 RPMs, that gap means water is not, or your pump is not able to circulate the water, the coolant, whatever you happen to have in your bike. It's not able to circulate it properly. So what happens is, if you've ever been on an F4 with a stock water pump and you're sitting in stop and go traffic, maybe you're at the beach and you're riding up and down the strip and it's stop and go traffic, you'll notice that the temperature on your bike will slowly start to climb, maybe even climb rapidly. And at some point, your overflow tank will just start bubbling over. It'll stop puking coolant all over the ground and so forth. And eventually, you'll overheat if you don't get moving soon enough. So MV tried to fix that with an upgrade to their water pump, and it worked for some, didn't work for all. Instead, I'm choosing to buy this unit. It's a one-shot unit, really super easy to install, and it resolves all of that. My brother has already installed one on his F4, works perfectly for him. However, I'm going to take you over to his bike now and show you a couple of things that we tried prior to installing this water pump. All right, guys, so you can see we're over here on the left side of my brother's 2013 F4RR. And if I bring you down here, you can see there is his Design Corse / Jet Prime water pump already installed, good to go. However, we tried a couple of things before we actually went to that pump. So the very first thing we tried is we tried the upgrade to the stock water pump. That did not go very well. First, we got the wrong parts, so we spent an afternoon or at least a couple of hours trying to fit the wrong parts and just did not work. We then got the right parts, and we still didn't have much luck. The bike was still overheating, and it was still doing its normal things. So the next thing we tried is we tried running water wetter and distilled water in here. Helped a little bit. It's a little bit better, but it was still bubbling over in stop and go traffic. The next thing we tried, and hopefully you can see it in here, we added this manual rocker switch that will turn on and off the fan, or at least turn it on. It'll still kick on automatically if you don't, but we added a manual rocker switch to turn on the fan when we knew we were going to be in stop and go traffic. So if we knew we were approaching some stop and go traffic, he could hit that switch, turn the fan on, and hopefully keep the bike from overheating too quickly. Again, it works, but it's not a save-all. It's more of a Band-Aid. So if you get it ahead of time, you might be able to save yourself a couple of minutes or maybe even an hour or so before the bike overheats. So we tried all of those things to no avail. It worked better, but didn't solve anything until we installed his Design Corse performance water pump. Now he has no problems. He still uses the manual fan switch every now and then, but since we've installed that pump, the bike does not overheat, has not boiled over in stop and go traffic whatsoever. The bike naturally runs pretty warm, particularly with the exhaust, only a few inches from your family jewels. So the bike runs hot normally, but now it's not boiling over, and it's doing awesome. He loves the thing. He said it was the best $400 or $500 he's ever spent. In fact, this weekend or sometime during my stay, we're actually going to upgrade his hoses to silicone hoses to further increase the coolant efficiency of this bike. So those are the things we did on his 2013. Again, the rocker switch, we tried the stock water pump upgrade, we tried running water wetter and distilled water, all before we installed the pump. And the pump was the key item. The bike runs awesome now. So we're hoping to do the same thing with my bike, although I don't have any problem with it overheating, probably because I haven't ridden it yet. So, but I have seen this bike in action. I know the previous owner. And I don't recall him having any problems with it overheating. So without further ado, let's get back over and start tearing into the bike, shall we? So before we tear into the bike, you guys know that I like to show you all the tools that you're going to need before we tear into the job. And this is proof positive of exactly how easy this job is. You're going to need yourself an 8mm socket. It doesn't even need to be a deep socket. It could be shallow. I'm using a 1/4 inch drive, but you could certainly use a 3/4 inch drive 8mm socket if you want to. You're going to need a screwdriver, and you're going to need a 5mm Allen wrench and a drain pan to drain your coolant in. That's it, guys. It probably takes longer to take the fairings off the bike and put them back on than it does to change this water pump. So let's get to it, all right? Okay, so one of the first things we want to do is obviously we're going to get the fairings off the bike so that we have access to the water pump and we can drain our system. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. I had just test fitted these anyway, and for the trip, for easier transportation. They are still in desperate need of some work. That I'm hoping to get to once I get back home. Place both fairings over here. Remove the belly pan. All right. Okay, so with the fairings removed, belly pan, we have access to over here. We have access to our water pump and everything under here. With the other side removed, we also have access to our overflow tank and our radiator fill cap. To make things a little bit easier for me to refill the system, I'm going to go ahead and remove this upper anyway. Again, I just had it on here for transportation purposes. Most of the stuff up here needs to be fixed, needs to be repaired or replaced anyway. My brother, as you can see, the toolbox behind me, has an insane amount of tools. We'll just leave it at that. Ridiculous. And they're all top quality Craftsman stuff too, so this shit isn't cheap. I ask him all the time, what the hell do you need all those tools for? And he tells me, well, you never know, Derrick. You never know. I guess I sort of understand that as I apply the same philosophy when I do track days. You know, bring it with me. You never know. The other mirror and the bracket. And we'll just slide the front of this off and set it aside. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to drain our system. So I've already gone ahead and removed the radiator cap off the other side. And there's a drain bolt here on the bottom of our water pump, if you remember from my last F4 episode where we drained this. Anyway, we're going to use the same bolt, 8 mil. And we're just going to let it drain. And remember, this is just distilled water. We didn't fill it with any water wetter or engine ice or anything like that. I'm also going to go ahead and remove the bleed screw. The bleed screw is right here. Just allow more air to get in the system so that it drains out a little bit quicker. All right, we'll give that another minute or two and we'll come back. Okay guys, so while the system is draining, let's take a closer look at this Design Corse water pump. Again, you'll notice that there are two mounting points. So we have here and here. Actually, it sits like this. So we have a mounting point in the bottom, a mounting point in the top. The kit comes with 2 screws, so you don't have to reuse those. It also comes with these screws for the cover, so we'll reuse the stock cover here, but we have screws here. You'll notice that it doesn't have a drain plug. I didn't check the box. I would be surprised if it doesn't have a drain plug in the kit, but if it doesn't, we can reuse the old one and seal it up here. So again, we pull off the hose here, remove the cover, pop the old one off, pop this one on, put the 2 screws in, put the covers in here, put in the drain plug, and we're done. On the back side, you'll notice that the back of the impeller has a little slot in it, so we'll need to line that up. We also have bearings, we also have ball bearings in here with a little C-clip. We don't have to worry about that. We'll have to take those off. And then there's an O-ring here that will help seal it. We'll put just a little bit of grease on here because it's never good to put a dry O-ring back into anything. You always want to lubricate it with something before you reinstall it. The benefits are that you'll have improved circulation, coolant circulation throughout your bike, no matter the RPM range. So whether it's you're idling at 1,000 or 1,200 RPM sitting in stop and go traffic, or whether you're ripping down your favorite track at 13,000 RPMs. This performance unit will make sure that your bike is circulating the coolant inside it properly, no matter what it is you're doing. CNC made. Jet Prime did a fantastic job on this. I'm not sure if Design Corse gave them the specs or not, but again, this unit is specifically made for Design Corse. I don't believe that you can get it anywhere else other than Design Corse and maybe Jet Prime. But this will fit all of your F4s and your B4 MV Augustas. It may fit other models. Don't quote me on that. Go to Design Corse and check it out for yourself. But this is a high quality unit. I've never heard of any of them failing. If you have, let me know. Let me know what you think about this unit. But again, go and check it out, designcorse.com. All you have to do is put in your bike specs, you know, year, make, model, so forth, and it'll pop up with all of the stuff that fits your bike. And this one will pop up on there too. So again, 2 mounting points, one here on the bottom, one here on the top. There's a drain plug. We'll reuse the cover here with 2 new screws. We have 2 new mounting screws that come in the kit, so we don't have to reuse the old ones if you don't want to. And again, this unit simply slides in on the pin that will be inside our engine. We'll rotate it and orient it to get it in the right spot. We'll lube up this O-ring just a little bit, and then that will be it. So you'll get improved coolant circulation, which means less parasitic loss. So if your bike is running cooler, that means this unit won't give you any more horsepower than your bike already creates. But as your bike heats up, as any internal combustion engine heats up, it loses power. So if you can keep your engine at the ideal operating temperature, and it really depends on the engine that you're talking about here, not just motorcycles, but it could be a lawnmower engine, car engine, whatever. They all have an optimum temperature that they like to run at. And if you can keep your bike, your motor, what have you, at that ideal operating temperature, as close to it as possible, then you'll lose less horsepower. So in theory, we should probably gain, I've been told, in the area of 3 horsepower, or we won't lose 3 horsepower by installing this kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. This isn't a horsepower adder. It just helps prevent the loss of horsepower with a stock unit. And like I said, it'll also circulate all the coolant within your bike properly. So I think the bike is drained, so let's head down back over there. We'll take the old unit off, we'll pop this one on, and we'll get going. So the first thing we want to do is we want to remove the outer water pump cover with these 2 8mm screws. I'll bring you guys in here just a little bit closer. So we'll move these 2 out of the way. That way this whole thing will swing up out of our way, and then we can get to the screw that's behind this hose. Okay, remove those. Hose pops up. Now I'm going to replace these hoses with the Samco silicone hoses anyway. But now you can see we have access to this top bolt here. And then once we remove that and the bottom one, the whole unit will come out, and then we can remove the hose clamp on this hose here. So again, these are all 8mm. And you'll notice the bolts are a different length. So these are the outer cover bolts. These are the bolts that hold in your water pump. So it's really loose. All right. So you shouldn't have any problems mixing or confusing those when putting them back in. After wiggling it a little bit, the unit pops off. And you'll lose a little bit of oil there, not the end of the world. As you can see, there's our old unit. And once I get the hose off of here, I'll show you the gap that's in here. And you can really see the gap in there. There we go. So remove this clamp. We'll break the seal and slide it right off. So there we go. You can see it now. So you see the fin there and the gap between the, that's going to be hard to see what, show you guys with the light. Hold on, let me do this. That way I don't have to hold the light. Okay, so you see that, see this fin right here? Well, it's still kind of hard to see there with the light the way it is. But notice that gap that's between the housing here, the inside of housing here, and the fin. That gap creates problems. See that? So there's an impeller fin right there. You can see how it creates a gap. So if I go and get the other one, somewhat easier, but you'll notice here, look at these impeller fins. They're huge and they come right up to the housing. There's no gap in there whatsoever, which means this is machined to a very high tolerance because you don't want those impeller fins hitting the inside of this housing. But there's no water gap, there's no gap. So when this is spinning, it's moving all of the coolant inside the water pump as opposed to the stock unit where there's that gap in there. And that gap means that coolant, not only that, but the fins are a whole hell of a lot smaller in your stock unit. But that gap means that coolant isn't properly circulating throughout the pump and throughout your bike. So this is inefficient. This is efficient. As simple as that, really. So let's install this puppy. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a little bit of this oil here, just a tiny little bit. I'm just going to lube up the O-ring here so that it slides in nice and smooth. I'm going to clean out the rest. At the same time, spread some oil around the housing. Okay, like so. I am lined up on there. There we go. Pop the hose on. We can bring our housing back down here. It's very important that you don't lose the washers on these screws because the mounting surface on your new water pump is not the same. So on your old water pump, it sits in here and you have these screws and it just sort of bolts down the side. Whereas here, your the water pump is actually, the clamping points are actually the washers. So you want to make sure that you don't install these without said washers. Okay, so you'll notice that I did not put on the hose clamp for the water pump housing behind here. That's because later on I'm going to change out the I'm going to change out all the hoses for silicone hoses, but today we're just installing the water pump. So don't worry about that. I have not forgotten this guy. All right, so we have to reuse our drain plug. So I'm going to grab my 8mm socket. Slide that back in there. And then my bleed valve screw. We'll put that back up in there. That is it. Well, all right, guys, that is it for this episode. We got our Design Corse performance/racing water pump installed in my 2012 MV Agusta F4RR. We talked about all the performance advantages of installing that unit versus some of the other things we did on my brother's 2013 MV F4. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait till we get this thing filled with coolant and we get all the other stuff and it's actually rideable, because I really want to try that out. I know it works fantastic on his 2013. He's ecstatic with it, and I'm sure I'll be equally as happy with mine. But check them out, designcorse.com. I'm pretty sure that's the only place you can get this water pump, and it will fit all of your F4s and your B4s. So don't worry, if you got an F4 or B4, head on out to designcorse.com, plug in your bike's information, year, make, model. It'll pop up on the screen and you can order it, or you can hit them up on Facebook or Twitter or email them directly. They'll get back to you really cool. Awesome guys over there at Design Corse. But I think that's just about it. Be on the lookout for another couple of episodes. And the next one, we're going to install my Samco silicone hoses and the proper hose clamps. I have our integrated tail light, and then hopefully, cross all my fingers and everything, my carbon fiber body parts from Motor Composites will be here before I head back west, and we'll get those installed as well. I also have my track bike here. I was hoping to do a track day. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. There was actually one today, but it's raining. So we didn't make it out to that, but I do have some awesome stuff that we're doing on that bike as well. So there'll be plenty of episodes, and I still have to do my random shit rant. I missed out yesterday because I was doing other stuff, and today it's raining, but it'll probably be a random shit rant Saturday. So I don't know, but be on the lookout for those. Lots of exciting stuff happen. I'm Derrick. This is your Superbike Life. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it if you don't like it. Either way, until next time, take care, guys.